بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله حمدا كثيرا طيبا مباركا فيه وأصلي وأسلم على خير خلق الله أجمعين نبينا محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين. So today inshallah we're going to discuss the balagha of Surah al Balad. Once again we're going to notice how amazing the Quran is, and just as Allah says قُلْ لَإِنِ اجْتَمَعَتِ الْإِنسُ وَالْجِنُّ على أن يأتوا بمثل هذا القرآن لا يأتون بمثله وَلَوْ كَانَ بَعْضُهُمْ لِبَعْضٍ ظَهِيرًا. That if all of mankind and jinkind were to come together, helping one another to try and come out with a Quran that's like this Quran, they will never ever be able to come out with anything equal to it. As the poet says, كلام ربي لا يجيء بمثله ولو جمعت الثقلان. This is the speech of my Lord. This is the speech of my Lord. No one can produce anything like it, even if all of mankind and jinkind came together. So starting off Surah al Balad, the amazing nature of the Quran is that the chapters and the verses of the Quran, they all link to one another. As Imam al-Razi rahmatullahi alayhi said, the entire Quran, it's as if it is one surah. It's as if it is one surah. In fact, it's as if it's one verse. So amazingly, this Surah al Balad, let's just mention the connection it has to the surah that comes before it, which is Surah al-Fajr. So in that surah, Allah mentions two groups of people. Allah mentions the group of someone who Allah has blessed with wealth. And Allah also mentions somebody who has not been blessed with wealth. So Allah says, فَأَمَّا الْإِنسَانِ إِذَا مَبْتَلَاهُ رَبُّهُ فأكرمه ونعمه فيقول ربي أكرمن وأما إذا ما ابتلاه فقدر عليه رزقه فيقول ربي أهانن. As Allah says, فأما الإنسان إذا ما ابتلاه ربه فأكرمه ونعمه فيقول ربي أكرمن وأما إذا ما ابتلاه فقدر عليه رزقه فيقول ربي أهانن. So there Allah is saying about a person who Allah has blessed him with wealth. But this wealth, this person thinks it's a sign of Allah being pleased with him, but it's actually a test from Allah. How will he respond with being blessed with this wealth? So when this person gets this wealth, he says, Akraman, that my Lord has blessed me with this wealth, thinking that it is a sign that Allah is pleased with this person. And when Allah restrains wealth for a person a little bit, again as a test to see the response of this person, then this person thinks that not getting wealth is a sign that Allah is displeased with him, hence disgracing him. Ahanan. So there Allah mentions those two types of people, and here in Surah al Balad, Allah mentions similar two types of people. So Allah mentions of a person who has wealth, and just blows it and throws it away. يَقُولُ أَهْلَكْتُ مَالًا لُبَدًا. This person has so much wealth, or he has wealth, and then he just blows it away, and he proudly boasts how he just spent it as he wished, in no way that pleases Allah. And Allah says a bit later, Allah says, يَتِيمًا ذَا مَقْرَبَةٍ أَوْ مِسْكِينًا ذَا مَتْرَبَةٍ. Allah speaks about a person that is so poor, he's so homeless, his home is basically the streets, and his food is basically from dumpsters. So that is two types of people Allah mentions in the previous surah, and then Allah follows it up with the same mention of two people, of the same two groups of people in Surah al Balad, the surah after Surah al Fajr. Then in the previous surah Allah says to insan, كَلَّا بَلْ لَا تُكْرِمُونَ الْيَتِيمَ وَلَا تَحَاضُّونَ عَلَى طَعَامِ الْمِسْكِينِ. Allah says that you do not honor and respect an orphan, and you do not encourage one another to feed. You do not encourage one another to feed the poor. So there Allah speaks of that, and in this surah Allah speaks of what? Allah speaks of one of the greatest actions to get close to Allah, and a difficult action, but it's one of the things that leads to the pleasure of Allah. Number one, here it is what? It is honoring, and it is feeding and looking after an orphan, and also feeding that person who has nothing no morsel to feed himself with. There Allah speaks of the poor here. Allah speaks of the miskin and the poor person who has nothing, and also the yatim. So there Allah speaks of the orphan and the person who has nothing, and here as well Allah speaks about the orphan and the person who has nothing. Then in the Surah al Fajr, Allah says, وَتَأْكُلُونَ التُّرَاثَ أَكْلًا لَمَّا وَتُحِبُّونَ الْمَالَ حُبًّا جَمًّا. So Allah says that you devour inheritance and you love wealth, a very, very high level of love. A very, very high level of love. And then in Surah al Balad, Allah speaks about a person who has wealth, or using this wealth, spending it and helping others. There he's devouring others, he's devouring inheritance from others. And here Allah says the same wealth that you love, Allah indicates in the previous surah. Here Allah says to get through the aqabah, we're going to mention Surah al Balad, to pass this difficult aqabah, to get the closeness to Allah, the pleasure of Allah, you need to spend your wealth and use it to help others, Then Allah says, وَتَأْكُلُونَ التُّرَاثَ أَكْلًا لَمَّا. Allah speaks about a person devouring inheritance that is not his right to eat. Somebody else's inheritance, in any way that he can get it, he gets it and he usurps it. But Allah says the word وَتَأْكُلُونَ, you eat and you usurp their wealth. So there, the word تأكلون, akal, from eating is used there, and here Allah encourages feeding, So that's a great connection. Some of the connections between Surah Al-Fajr and Surah Al Balad. Again, we see how the sequence of the Quran, it didn't just happen. Thereafter, Allah speaks in Surah Al Balad of 4 things. Number 1, 4 things that have to do with the connection of the message Allah sends to humankind to be guided towards Allah. Allah mentions the place where revelation came down from. So Allah says, لا أقسم بهذا البلد. Allah is taking an oath by this city, which is Mecca, the place where revelation came down. Allah speaks of the person or the messenger who came with the message. وَأَنْتَ حِلٌّ بِهَذَا الْبَلَدِ. And you, O Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam, one of the translations we can say of حِلٌّ is living here, or this is your city. You are found or living in this city. وَأَنْتَ, that's the messenger. Number 3, Allah speaks about the people who the message came to. The message came to. So that is where Allah mentions لَقَدْ خَلَقْنَا الْإِنسَانِ. We've created insan. So insan is who the message came to. And lastly, it is the message itself. Which is the good deeds that Allah speaks about, that a person should be engaging in. In the end, Allah speaks about Iman, which is what it came with. ثُمَّ كَانَ مِنَ الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَتَوَاصَوْا بِالصَّبْرِ وَتَوَاصَوْا بِالْمَرْحَمَةِ. Those who encourage one another to patience, or with patience, and those who encourage one another to show mercy. And then Allah speaks about other deeds as well. فَكُّ رَقَبَةٍ, to set the slave free, etc. And feeding and taking care of the orphan. These are all actions that the message came with. So that's mentioned there as well. In fact, in addition, Allah mentions the 5th thing, and that Allah mentions those who accepted the message, and that is أُولَٰئِكَ أَصْحَابُ الْمَيْمَنَةِ. Those are the people of who Allah will grant happiness. We can translate it like that for now. And then Allah mentions those who do not accept this message, and that is أُولَٰئِكَ أَصْحَابُ الْمَشْأَمَةِ. Those are the people of the left side, the side that are not going to be blessed with the favor of Allah in the next life. So now Allah says, لا أقسم بهذا البلد وأنت حل بهذا البلد. So one of the tafasir, Allah is taking an oath on the city of Mecca. And then Allah says, وأنت حل بهذا البلد. So basically we said just now that Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam is basically living in Mecca, in this city, which is city of Mecca. So here the question could be asked. Allah says, وأنت حل. The word hil is used. But a more common phrase that one could use to get to the meaning of living in this place is the word حال. وأنت حال بهذا البلد, or وأنت مقيم بهذا البلد. So why does Allah choose the word حل بهذا البلد? And that is, the mufassirin or the linguist mention that the word حل has many more meanings and conveys many more meanings than halun would have. And the word halun would have. Amongst them, number 1, hillun has the meaning of hal. So it has the meaning of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam staying in and occupying and residing in Mecca. So therefore, Allah is taking an oath on Mecca, and He's taking an oath on Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam being in Mecca. Meaning, Mecca is already honored by Allah. But now the honor has increased because of who is inside, who lives in that city. So some of the mufassirin point out that this indicates that sometimes a place has its own virtue and value, but sometimes because of certain people residing in those places, the worth of that place becomes more. So here Allah takes an oath on Mecca, which Allah Himself has honored and venerated, but then the fact that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam is now in there, that increases its honor. It increases its virtue. So that's number 1 of وَأَنْتَ حِلٌّ بِهَذَا الْبَلَدِ. Number 2, حِلٌّ means مستحل or halal or مستحل قتلك وإخراجك. مستحل قتلك وإخراجك. So it means mustahil. Mustahil means, gives off the meaning of that Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam is made kind of halal. He's made kind of halal. Meaning, now forget the aspect of the oath, we're going to mention it now. Here, let's exclude the meaning of لا أقسم بهذا البلد being an oath here. We're going to mention the second meaning of لا أقسم. But here, for Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam being kind of halal, in the sense that here, Allah is saying that in Mecca, in this sanctuary, you people have made Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam's blood halal, in the sense that you are deeming it okay to kill Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam in this place. This place, the sanctuary, where it's not permissible to hunt inside of the haram boundaries. In fact, just to indicate, if someone is in ihram, to indicate to a person who's not in ihram, there's an animal to hunt, you're not allowed. Animals are safe in the haram to the extent that even trees and plants are safe. If a person were to break branches or break a tree in the haram area, he has to be responsible for the compensation of breaking that branch or that tree, or pulling off leaves or twigs from it. To that extent, everything is safe in the sanctuary. And in this sanctuary, you people are chasing Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam out of it. That he has no safety in this place of Mecca, and you are making his own blood having no safety. That he will put 100 camels on whoever kills this man, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So based on this, la uqsimu, it has the second meaning, and that is la uqsimu means Allah is saying, I am not taking an oath on this blessed city, while you people, the residents of this city, are making the blood of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam halal to kill, and taking him out, chasing him away from out of this sanctuary, this place that every living thing is safe in. Here, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam is the one who's not safe. And based on this second interpretation of la uqsimu, it's as if Allah is saying, this is the third meaning, la uqsimu bihadha al-balad, I do not take an oath on this city while you, Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, has been chased out of the city. So while you are chased out and no more in the city, I don't take an oath on the city. I don't take an oath on the city. Yes, it is blessed, but I'm not taking an oath on it in the situation where you are taken out of it and chased out of it. The third meaning of لا أقسم بهذا البلد وأنت حل بهذا البلد وأنت حل بهذا البلد, here it means that Mecca, or the rules of Mecca, or Mecca is halal for you, in the sense that we said now Mecca is a sanctuary, that nobody, you are not allowed to kill or fight in Mecca. Animals cannot be hunted or killed in Mecca. We're saying in general, there are certain exceptions, certain types of animals or insects, they're an exception in fiqh, this is mentioned. And then even trees and plants are safe in Mecca, but there'll be a time in the future, a day in the future, when these laws will not apply to you, Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam. And that is when Fath Mecca, when Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam and the Muslims conquered Mecca, when they conquered Mecca, therefore that day, the actions of those people who harmed the Muslims and harmed Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam meant on the day when the Muslims conquered Mecca, their blood was permissible. Allah made it permissible for Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam to kill if he wanted to kill in the sanctuary. So then Mecca becomes a place that's halal. Mecca becomes halal for Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So that is the last meaning we're going to mention that the word hillun has. And this is found only in the word hill. If halun was used or muqimun bihadha al-balad was used, these meanings would not have been found. But because hillun bihadha al-balad was used, therefore all these meanings are found. Then the next question would be, Allah says, لا أقسم بهذا البلد وأنت حل بهذا البلد. So in another verse in the Quran, in Surah At-Tin, Allah says, takes an oath, وهذا البلد الأمين. Allah says, وَهَذَا الْبَلَدِ الْأَمِينَ. Allah describes the city as being a place of safety. A place of safety. As we described Mecca, the sanctuary, implying safety. So why there Allah says, وَهَذَا الْبَلَدِ الْأَمِينَ, with the word, the addition Amin. But here, Allah says, لَا أُقْسِمُ بِهَذَا الْبَلَدِ لَا أُقْسِمُ بِهَذَا الْبَلَدِ وَأَنْتَ حِلٌّ بِهَذَا الْبَلَدِ. But there's no al-balad al-amin. There's no بِهَذَا الْبَلَدِ al-amin. So they say, that putting Amin, safety, does not fit in the context of Surah al Balad? Number one, because of the difficulties and hardships Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam went through at the hands of his people in Mecca. So it doesn't fit that this place be called a place of safety and a safe haven, especially when in this very city there was no safety for Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam. So it doesn't fit that Amin be mentioned here. Number two, also the meaning of when Mecca is conquered by the Muslims, then on that day Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam can kill and he can make anyone he wants as a captive, etc. This is the opposite of the meaning of safety. So it doesn't fit that safety is used here. Number three, the whole atmosphere of this surah, as we're going to mention, has difficulty involved in it. It has difficulty, different forms of difficulty and hardship in it. So it doesn't fit to put the word safety here in this surah because of the whole atmosphere of the surah, which is different in Surah At-Tin. So that's why here Allah does not say وَأَنْتَ حِلٌّ بِهَذَا الْبَلَدِ الْأَمِينَ, or Allah does not say لَا أُقْسِمُ بِهَذَا الْبَلَدِ الْأَمِينَ, but Allah just says بِهَذَا الْبَلَدِ. Another question that could come about is Allah says لَا أُقْسِمُ بِهَذَا الْبَلَدِ وَأَنْتَ حِلٌّ بِهَذَا الْبَلَدِ. Allah is saying that I take an oath, or I don't take an oath, but let's use the translation, I take an oath, or I swear by this city, right, while you are residing in this city. So generally you'd speak and you'd say that I swear, I take an oath, or I swear by this city while you are residing in it. You would not repeat this city, this city, this city every time. So why is this repeated every time? So the answer to this, they say, is that the Arabs, when they speak Arabic, part of their eloquence is that they repeat certain words for certain reasons. So sometimes they repeat a word to indicate fear, or to indicate the greatness of something, or to give a warning to something, or because of such regret over something, they'd repeat the same word repeatedly, and they won't just use a pronoun indicating to that. So for example, out of fear, to indicate the greatness or to bring about attention and worry into somebody, Allah says Al-Qari'ah, Mal-Qari'ah, Al-Haqqa, Mal-Haqqa. So these are repetitions. Then for warning they repeat as well. Allah says أفأمن أهل القرى أن يأتيهم بأسنا بياتا وهم نائمون أو أمن أهل القرى أن يأتيهم بأسنا ضحى وهم يلعبون. So Allah says أفأمن أهل القرى أو أمن أهل القرى. So Allah repeats saying that do the people of the city or the people of the town not fear? Do they feel safety? Twice Allah repeats the people of the village, the people of the city, the people of the city. He doesn't say do they not feel safety or do they feel safety. And that is out of a warning that, fix your actions. So here as well, they say number one, Allah says, لا أقسم بهذا البلد. Allah says, وأنت حل بهذا البلد, repeating it twice to indicate what? To indicate the greatness of the city and indicate the greatness of who is in the city. That's why it's repeated twice. The other meaning they say is that it's repeated twice to give off two separate meanings. Number one, I take an oath, or I swear by the city, and that is the city of Mecca, that is this blessed city that's a sanctuary and a safe haven. وَأَنْتَ حِلٌّ بِهَذَا الْبَلَدِ. But the second one is referring to the day of Fath Mecca, the day when the Muslims conquer Mecca. So we mentioned there, it's not a day of safety. So it's a day when Mecca, the general laws of Mecca Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam is absolved from following the general laws of Mecca. So to indicate, it's as if now it became two separate places for two separate times, because of two separate times. So an oath is, so the repetition of this word بِهَذَا الْبَلَدِ came in twice. So the repetition of بِهَذَا الْبَلَدِ came in twice. So that's what they mention. Why there's a repetition بِهَذَا الْبَلَدِ. Then Allah says وَوَالِدٍ وَمَا وَلَدٍ. Allah says, Allah is then referring to the parent, to a father, or we could say a father, and what is born, a child. So basically, who's referred to here? They say it's referred to any parent and any child, from humans and from non-humans, a parent and a child, and that fits, and that has a connection to the surah, from the fact that in the surah we're speaking of difficulty that a human goes through in his life. We're going to just read just now, لَقَدْ خَلَقْتَ الْإِنسَانَ فِي كَبَدٍ. The insan, the human, has been created in difficulty, and that fits with the whole process of childbirth, from pregnancy for the mother and a sideline to the father, from giving birth, the labor itself, all of that has difficulties filled in it. All of that has difficulties filled in it. And then a person, when the child is then born, then we're going to read later in the surah that it has to do ثُمَّ كَانَ مِنَ الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَتَوَاصَوْا بِالصَّبْرِ وَتَوَاصَوْا بِالْمَرْحَمَةِ, that they encourage one another, the believers encourage one another to patience and to encouraging one another to have and to show mercy. So these aspects of patience and mercy, a parent needs that as he deals with and brings up and cares for his child and cares for his and her child. They need patience and they need mercy. They need patience and they need mercy. So mentioning this fits with the entire surah. It fits with the entire surah and the whole atmosphere of the surah. Then we're going to read later in the surah that feeding, we mentioned it earlier, feeding the poor and the orphan, and a parent would encounter difficulty. We spoke of the difficulty in the surah as the parent or the father goes out to earn in order to what? To feed his child. So there's an aspect of feeding as well. Then the next aspect, Allah says وَوَالِدْ وَمَا وَلَدْ. So it means that Allah is saying the parent and what is born. So the word what is born is used. So now what happens here? The question comes, in Arabic you have two words to denote this. It can be ma or men. Ma or men. Men means who, ma means most of the time what. Means what. So generally, like if you'd ask who came, because you're referring to a person. So here we did say وَمَا وَلَدْ is from humankind, that which is born from humankind and not humankind. But more so would be increased in meaning here would be humankind, because this whole aspect of difficulty applies more to humankind. The entire surah that we're going to mention what comes after applies more to humankind, and the aspect of reward and punishment and answering the call happens to humankind. So here, since what is meant more is humankind, what should be used, what would be more apt to be used outside of the Quran, you'd say وَمَنْ وَلَدْ, because you say who, like you'd ask who came. You won't ask if a person came to knocked at the door. You won't ask what is here or what came. You say who came. So, but if it was an object that came, let's say a package came, you'd say what came. You won't say who came. You say what came. So here the same question could be asked, that why does Allah say وَمَا وَلَدْ? Number one, ma walad, because it's phrased like that, it would indicate that those that are not humans are meant as well. Those that are not humans are meant as well. Why? Because ma is used for humans and non-humans, whereas men is used only for humans. So ma, you can say arkabu ma tarkabu. I am driving what you are driving, or I am riding what you are driving. And you can also use ma for humans. Allah says Wallahu a'lamu bima wada'at. Allah is more knowledgeable regarding that which you have given birth of, and that is a human. So you could say Wallahu a'lamu biman wada'at, that Allah says Allah is more knowledgeable with what you've given birth to. And Allah says فَانْكِحُوا مَا طَابَ لَكُم مِّنَ النِّسَاءِ, marry that which you desire from مَا طَابَ لَكُم, that or what you desire from the females. And Allah doesn't say فَانْكِحُوا مَنْ طَابَ لَكُم. Allah does not use the word men. So that indicates that ma can be used for humans and non-humans. Whereas if men was used, it would indicate that only humans are being referred to. But the fact ma is used, it indicates the meaning is much faster. It's much faster. Then Allah says, لَقَدْ خَلَقْنَا الْإِنسَانَ فِي كَبَدٍ. Allah says that mankind has been created in difficulty, or man will experience throughout his life difficulty and hardships. So the way this verse is phrased, لَقَدْ خَلَقْنَا الْإِنسَانَ فِي كَبَدٍ, while we do say I'm in trouble, it works. I'm going through hardship. You don't mean literally through hardship, right? You don't mean here's trouble and you are inside trouble, right? So it's a correct way to phrase it. We phrase it like that when we speak. So in the Quran, this meaning is used as well, but there's a bit more depth in it. Allah says, لَقَدْ خَلَقْنَا الْإِنسَانَ فِي كَبَدٍ. لَقَدْ خَلَقْنَا الْإِنسَانَ فِي كَبَدٍ. We've created mankind in difficulty. Now, in here, fi, the word fi, تفيد الظرفية والوعاء. That في here, it has the meaning of place. It has the meaning of place, like you are in a specific place. والوعاء, and it's as if there's a container. It's as if you are in a container, and it's as if there's a container and you are inside it. It's as if life is a container and you are inside it. And this container of life is hardship. This container of life is hardship, or hardship is the container and you are inside. And there's no getting out. You are created as if you are in hardship. That's why for this verse, out of Balagha, the Mufassirin mentioned that the sheer fantasy of a hiccupless life is laughable. They say the sheer fantasy of a hiccupless life is laughable. That's why they say that problems never end, they just differ. And that's why the poet says, ثمانية تجري على الناس كلهم ولا بد للإنسان يلقى الثمانية. 8 things every single person will taste in his life, and there's no way anyone would not taste these 8 things, or some of these 8 things. سرور وحزن, every person would go through moments of happiness and sadness. Every person would go through moments of happiness and sadness. Every person would go through health and sickness. Every person would go through ease and difficulty, and every person would go through سرور وحزن, and the last one is واجتماع وفرقة. Every person, they have moments when they together, they have moments when they meet each other and are together, and the moments when they separate. In one way or another, you will separate with your loved ones and with your friends and everyone else. In one way or another, you will separate. And these 8 things, every person will taste in his life, and therefore coming to terms and accepting this will make a person stay on the earth much easier, because it's as if a person's life is like he's inside difficulty, and there's no other way. So man has been created in difficulty. So this is what this verse indicates. لَقَدْ خَلَقْنَا الْإِنسَانَ فِي كَبَدٍ, inside of difficulty. Then the fact that somebody has been created for difficulty. So if somebody is created and on top of him is this heavy task of difficulty, he has to be built to withstand and manage to deal with this difficulty. So therefore, kabad has another meaning, and the other meaning is a person has been built or created. Allah has created this person quite strong and powerful to deal with these things, so that he can go through these things. And also for other reasons that this meaning connects to the following verses. And then we say Allah has been taking an oath in the beginning of the surah with لا أقسم بهذا البلد وأنت حل بهذا البلد. Then the third oath ووالد وما ولد. And then what Allah summarizes the oaths on, or what the oath then officially falls on, is لقد خلقنا الإنسان في كبد. The oaths are taken and it finishes off with a person going through being created for difficulty. So where's the connection? The connection to that is, firstly, the connection that Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam had. The fact that humankind is created in difficulty kind of makes it a bit easy. It kind of makes it a bit easy on the heart of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam, who in his own city is going to go through so much of difficulty. Forget Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam in his own life, the difficulty he went through. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam losing all of his children except Fatima radiyallahu anha. All the difficulties that a person can face, Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam encountered in his life. And that is so that Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam then has a reward from Allah that no one can beat him in. No one can surpass him in, sallallahu alayhi wasallam. And one of the means of that was all the difficulty that Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam went through, but the person being created in difficulty. This connecting to the oath that links to Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam, it indicates the difficulty that he went through. And also, as we said, just to strengthen and firm his heart that this is what will happen, or this is going to happen. So be firm, be strong through it, and you will manage it, which is also a lesson for us. And the other connection it has, Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam in Mecca was calling to Allah. He was calling to Allah, and then for that he experienced all the difficulties he went through. And in that is a little message for all those out in the path of Allah in any way, whether it be calling to Allah, whether it be teaching, whether it be studying, whatever manner a person is going in the path of Allah, to call to Allah, to bring people closer to Allah, then naturally with that, hand in hand comes difficulty. Hand in hand comes difficulty, and therefore a person needs patience. A person needs patience and mercy from Him, mercy on him, mercy from Him, and mercy on him. And that is because of the difficulty Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam experienced in him being a caller to Allah. And in that is a sign for all those calling to Allah to be firm as well, because difficulty and calling to Allah go hand in hand. So we end up on these few verses, and we'll continue with the remaining verses in the upcoming lessons, inshallah. وصلى الله وسلم وبارك على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين والحمد لله رب العالمين.